everyone. I, Megha Ahuja, welcome you all to Sashak Dialogues, an attempt by Sashak, the Ovarian Cancer Foundation, to break the silence and start meaningful conversations to combat unjustified cancer related stigmas. So, for this special episode, in which we are going to discuss about the stigma, cancer, and shame, we have two beautiful and inspiring guests with us today. Neelam Kumar, best-selling author, life coach, and Payal Gandhi Hu, NLP coach, Posh panelist, and founder Tamarai. Hi Neelam, hi Payal, welcome to the show. Cancer can happen to anyone. It's an illness, not a failing. However, having cancer is difficult. Adding feelings of guilt, self-blame, shame, or embarrassment on top of other painful emotions like sadness and anxiety only intensifies that difficulty. Starting with you, Neelam, being a cancer survivor, what has been your experience regarding feeling of shame after being diagnosed with breast cancer, and how did you cope with it?
Thank you, Megha, for this wonderful question. The stigma of shame goes with a woman's life journey right from the time she is born. Ha, ladki hui hai. Or, be ashamed of the monthly curse. Also, slut shaming, fat shaming, it just goes on. The perfect woman in our scriptures or paintings is seen as the one with perfect breasts. And God forbid, if an illness strikes the breast, then you become flawed and you should be ashamed of it. So it is in this atmosphere, when I heard all these negative emotions, the myths, superstitions, when cancer came into my life a second time, I had a 17-year respite to think about it. By this time, I was a pro. So I decided to do something. I had no hair, no eyelashes. But even at that time, I went up on stage and I started talking about the breast, which can also become ill. Because as you know, patriarchy plays the most, it plays out the most around the woman's breast. So, and it's not only men, it's women who exercise patriarchy also. So a mother will ask a daughter to be, to cover herself up. A good girl is supposed to be all covered up. If you happen to talk about your breast, you're asking for it. So there's a lot of shame attached to it. So when I started talking about having breast cancer at that point, people were quite shocked. And but the good thing that came out of it was, I talked about the need for early detection and how we can stop cancer. And after my talks, women would come up to me and they would say, I have this hardening of the breast, but I'm so ashamed to talk about it. So all that came out. And, I looked for books. I decided to be my own cheerleader because to my horror, India had no happy literature on cancer. I went through all the classics, Grit and Grace, Tuesdays with Maury, The Last Lecture, even the classic film Anand. And the protagonist just dies. Now, I had absolutely no intention of dying. So I decided to write my own life script. I wrote India's first joyous book on cancer, To Cancer with Love, My Journey of Joy. I followed it up with India's first graphic novel, To Cancer with Love, a graphic novel. And then I followed it up with actor Manisha Koirala's biography, Healed, How Cancer Gave Me a New Life. And, these were out of the box books, but in each of them, I was talking about positive things. The focus was on positivity. And I got my validation from society when, I received the Nargis Dutt Memorial Trophy for doing my bit to change the narrative of cancer in India from grimness to hope.
That's so amazing and inspiring. You very well said that media plays a major role, and because of the negative portrayal of media, a lot of time, whenever anybody gets this disease, either they get into shame or either it is perceived as a death sentence. Coming to you, Payal, that the feeling of shame usually comes up in people who have cancer in a body part that isn't often discussed openly. From breast cancer to colorectal cancer to cervical cancer to cancer caused by HPV infections, the patient's fear of being judged inflicts shame. What can patients or family members do to combat this?
Thanks, Megha. And it's really my honor to be on this panel today with you and Neelam. One for you fighting for this cause, not giving up on it and making it only your personal story that you've just ended there. And Neelam for really putting that light, like you rightly said, in India. And I was just sharing with Neelam a while back that Neelam's book was a ray of hope, because when my mother was detected with cervical cancer, obviously, I think all of us have heard this, that we think that this can never happen to us. It's happening to other people. And, I was absolutely shaken up. The family was shaken up. We didn't know what to do. And my refuge usually is to look for answers within. And that was the time I remember, I picked up Neelam's book, To Cancer with Love. And I loved the part where it said with love. I said, my goodness, I was so scared of taking the word, saying it, spelling it out, cancer. And I would say C, and there was a fear that if I would even spell it out, it's going to spread further. And today you've given this platform. Now, going back to your question, and I think Neelam touched upon the shame element. Shame, I think if we were to unpack it, where does shame really come from? And the point is, we as a society, we're not used to talking about things. And when we see something which we do not know, either we ignore it, we put it away, we don't know how to deal with it, and it really goes out of hands. So shame is our defense mechanism of kind of putting it, hiding it away. And like Neelam mentioned about patriarchy, right? So it is almost like a social conditioning that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, that we've got to show up in this world in a certain way, in a certain kind. And we do talk about certain ailments. We talk about simple things like headache ho gaya, sar dard ho gaya, mere ko moch aa gayi, which is fine, but we don't call out references because we've not had references. We didn't know about it in the first place. And that's the reason we try to keep it at bay, and we are shameful of it. That's one defense mechanism. Now, to your second part of the question, where you're talking about how should the family go about this? The point is, I would say it is a collaborative effort towards the person who's been inflicted with cancer and also the family. Because you're going through a cycle, and I would call it a cycle of acceptance. A lot of people would have heard it. It's called the dawa, So you deny. So the initial shock is denial, that absolutely not, it can't be happening to me. And the second is anger. So you are saying, well, I've taken care of myself, everything is fine, but how did this even happen to me? So you're again spiraling into anger. And then you go into something called as withdrawal. You withdraw because you don't know what to do. You have kind of succumb to your emotions and you want to move away from the society because you are not ascribing to the norms of the society of looking a certain kind, being a certain kind. And finally, subsequently, if God willing, how soon you get to it, which is the last stage, which is acceptance. So the journey from denial to acceptance is something I want to share with everybody. The sooner we make it, the better it becomes, because from acceptance that yes, cancer has struck, we need to do something about it, look for the right kind of treatment, the right kind of doctors and procedures is something that one would want to do. So I would say acknowledge it, it has happened, and start working on that aspect of it rather than shoving it under the carpet.
Very beautifully explained. Acceptance is, of course, the key. But what happens is in the society we live in, it takes a lot of time for anybody to come out and say, okay, yes, I have cancer and I'm fine with it. Coming to you, Neelam, if we talk specifically about breast cancer or other gynecological cancers, there are so many women who feel ashamed touching their own body. And even if they get to know there is something wrong, they feel ashamed discussing it with someone in the family or a doctor, leading to late diagnosis, costing them their life. What is your take on this, and what do you think we can do to change this?
Body shaming, the shaming game has been actually, it's a painful emotion. I realize that it's a painful emotion at the root of many, many illnesses. Now, when you can't talk of something as personal as a breast, how can you touch it? Ironically, touching your breast every month is the only way you can catch a lump. Now, there is so much of shame attached to it that, the shame, I think, should be actually that we are sitting, our country is sitting on a cancer epidemic, and yet we are so ignorant about it. And we don't talk about it. Instead, as Payal said, we sweep it under the carpet. Now, what can we do about it? First of all, education and awareness. We have to aggressively talk about the breast and its illness, and the fact that women should boldly seek out options. It's their body. The second, I think, is attacking the stigma of shame. Shame is also a social evil. A driver, I had earlier came to me saying that his wife was a very fallen woman. I said, "Kya ho gaya?" So he said she is wanting to show her woman part to a surgeon who happens to be a male. And when I sat him down and I explained to him, उसे कुछ तो लग रहा होगा, that's why she wants to. And sure enough, it was detected as cancer, but he was so ashamed of society that she had got infected by cancer that he threw her out and promptly got himself a new, younger girl. So shame is actually a social evil. If we don't talk about it, ignorance will not go. Now, it's okay to preach, but in my own little drop in the ocean, what am I doing? I am a life skills coach, and I have been talking to youngsters. I have been training them in various skills of life. One of them is not to laugh at a woman's body, but to understand how it functions. And in my life skills sessions, I teach the boys the connection between cancer and smoking, and I actually teach the girls how to self-examine. And I ask them to teach their mothers so that, this shame bit can go away from our society. It is a very, very slow process, but if I'm happy to say I've trained 10,000 youngsters, 10,000 17-year-olds till date, and I plan to do a lot more because this is the need of the hour. So, the other thing is body shaming, gender shaming, breast shaming. Everything has to be attacked. We should not, as women, we should not laugh at lame jokes about other women's bodies. When we normalize that conversation, we are taking the shame culture forward. So I think each one has to teach one, and that's the way to stop it.
That's so amazing. Definitely education is the key, and that if we listen to our body when it whispers, we won't have to hear it scream. So it's very important that when our body is showing us symptoms, we hear those symptoms and we move forward and consult a doctor at the right time, because in any cancer journey, early detection can play a major role. Coming to you, Payal, we live in a society where vulnerabilities are considered bad. And this results in people isolating themselves rather than opening about their feeling of shame. It not just impacts them psychologically, but also influences their disease prognosis and treatment outcomes. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think, to answer your question, Megha, the point is we need to start communicating, also to add to what Neelam said. We are shy of having those conversations. We've not had those conversations. I'm talking about myself. We've never had those kind of conversations. Of late, we've seen in the last 1 decade or so, we've had these awareness around going in for mammographies and pap smears. And we as young girls, we feel, or women, we feel that, oh, I don't need to go through something like this. It's a very painful affair. I mean, I personally can speak about myself because I never knew what the treatment or the inquiry would be like, or the process would be like. So somebody, it was hearsay, my friend said, pap smear, my God, it's so painful. I will never go for it in all my life. And I got so scared of it. The point is, it is so important to have these conversations where we're talking to our sisters, we're talking to our friends, we're talking the medical fraternity or people like us talking and having those conversations, making people aware of this particular stigma around or the treatment that is, important for us. I remember, also it is also your journey around it. I remember how my mother kind of went through it when each strand of hair is falling out. How do you deal with it? Now, you've not been taught, you've never seen that in your life. You are seeing that happening as a caregiver. I was seeing that happening. My dad was seeing, my sister was seeing. How do you deal with it? How do you not look like shocked about it? How do you remain calm? How do you encourage yourself, pick yourself up every day and pick the person up every day as well? But I remember what is important is really the mind and body connect, as a part of it. Because whatever that you and I are thinking is what we are manifesting at a physical level for ourselves. So if we are, and this is something I want to share with everybody, if we are constantly thinking, I've got this disease, I've got this problem, and you're constantly giving yourself those internal dialogues, the likelihood is that it could be manifesting as well. So it could be a positive self-affirmation that one could give oneself and say, well, I am healthy, I'm eating healthy, I am in the right place, getting your checkups done. Because everybody seems to be, I think there is a sense of fear in the air. And of course, due to the pandemic, it has gone up many levels. The point is taking your own health in your hand. And the other aspect of the mind and body is, if you don't listen to your bodily symptoms, it's going to impact your mind as well. So we have within us all the resources to heal ourselves. And I'm sure Neelam more than I, and of course I've seen it from very, very close quarters, but I'm sure Neelam can attest to that it is a lot to do with your own sense of resilience, your own sense of spirit to be able to survive and fight and say, no, I'm going to really win over this aspect of it.
Very true. And family and people around can also play a major role in this. Like if we talk about diabetes, we don't keep telling the patient again and again that you have diabetes. But if we talk specifically about cancer, they're told from everywhere and they're forced to talk only about cancer. However, I feel that it is very important to normalize the atmosphere and keep it as lively as possible around the patient, because that really helps to give them that positive environment to make them stay in that positive mind frame.
If I can add, Megha, one thing, like you beautifully said, that people are reiterating the same thing over and over again. The point is to create that space. First of all, acknowledge. Don't be in a hurry to make it all joyful also. I think we kind of swing in both the spectrums. Either we become very sad about it and morose about it, we want to hide it from the society, or we go to the extreme end of making it all very joyful. So what is important is really to be able to acknowledge that this has come. Put your feelings together. It is so important as a family to make sense of what is happening. And if you're feeling okay, please tell your loved ones around, because that's what we did in my mother's case. So we had the support of my uncles and aunts, my cousins, and everybody who came in together, spent days with my mother. She said, I'm not going to hide this. whoever would like to come, please come, be with me. I think it is your own level of balance that you want and what is comfortable for you personally, but not being that toxic positivity also, I think, is something we need to watch out for, So over to you, Megha.
I know, telling someone to be just positive all the time, that also doesn't work at all. They have to come to the mind frame on their own.
That's true.
So Neelam, media plays a major role in shaping the perceptions of the society, and cancer has always been shown in a negative light everywhere, from movies to advertisements to news to books. Do you think this contributes to the shame associated with cancer, and what do you think needs to be done in this regard?
This is so true, Megha. The media has completely made it toxic. First of all, we need to bust the stereotype of the ideal Indian woman as being self-sacrificing, silent, suffering. You know what that does? When a woman gets that funny feeling in her body, she says, how can I share that? Because it's the family, her own health comes as the last in the family's priority. So, she says, let my husband's foreign tour be over, let my daughter's board exam be over, let my son's marriage be over. By the time she takes herself to the doctor, it is usually too late. So I think the media has to do this one thing, break the stereotype. It is happening. Women are themselves rebelling against that. But again, it should not go the other spectrum. The other thing I think is the perception angle. It's high time we stop treating the breast as an organ of titillation in films, media, but restore it back to its glory of being a nurturing organ. When we do that, that goes hand in hand with respecting women. It goes hand in hand with the perception we have of women. The media also has another very big role. The media has to stop writing cancer stories as tear-jerker stories. You'll be surprised to know, now there are more and more survivors living joyous, happy, fulfilling lives. And yet, tear-jerkers get more TRPs. So now we must be responsibility-driven and not TRP-driven. Because we owe it to people who are trying to be courageous, and people have no clue how to meet a cancer warrior. The warrior is trying to be courageous, and yet when visitors drop in, they start crying. They start with मेरी aunt के बच्चे को, नानी की चाची को ऐसा हुआ था, वो भी मर गई. That's the worst thing you can say. In fact, I was chief of communications then in India's largest steel company. And at that time, my, colleague came up to me, shook my hands and said, bon voyage, madam. And I said, where am I going? So it was so shocking to see people already write you off. So no, cancer is not a death sentence. That is a perception the media has to change.
That's so true. We need to give role models to the society rather than giving them, as you mentioned, tearjerker stories, where the cancer patients are always shown dying.
Yeah.
So, and having a role model can be a great help. Even for my case, both my parents are cancer survivors. So when mom was diagnosed, she had dad as a role model. And which helped a lot, because she never saw cancer as something that will lead to death, because that is absolutely fine. It's been 15 years. So it helped her a lot in her journey. So that is what even media needs to do, is to give right role models to all the patients. So Payal, we as a society lack open communication in our families. From periods to menopause, they're all considered taboo subjects. I believe this is one of the major reasons for the shame involved. What is your take on this?
Coming down to the taboo aspect that you were talking about, what is interesting and came to my mind is an anecdote that I had. So all of us, I think from college days, at least for me, it worked that I would always keep a spare pad in my every possible bag, right? Just in case, because who's going to go look around for it? Or we've grown up in those days when newspaper mein wrap karke your pads used to come.
Yeah.
Or the black poly bag, right? It was so. I would really wonder, but I would think maybe something's crazy about me. That I would wonder that why are they wrapping it up like this? Is like just like plain simple whatever it is. So anyway, recently, I think this was 2-3 years ago, I was out for and the movie was about to start. I went to the loo and I realized, oh my God, and I'm down. And so I walked up and I looked for a lady staff of the movie theater and I said, I won't be able to go down and look around. Do you know in this mall if you can help me? I'll be obviously ready to pay if you don't have. Though usually I expect such institutions to keep some spare or whatever. She said, ma'am, we don't have anything and I can't go because I'm on a duty and my shift and I can't go. So I said, call any other colleague. So she said, ma'am, but there are men all around. I said, so I said, why don't you call a man? And my husband was watching me because he knows what I'm up to. The man came, young boy, he came and I said, listen, buddy, I need you to do me a favor. I'm going to pay you. I've written it on the slip, but if you're not comfortable, but I need pads. And so he was a little stumped. I said, it is cotton in the most hygienic form. So please don't get it in a wrapped up paper. They all had a hearty laugh, and he actually came and gave it to me like that. Because look at it. I mean, this is the deep conditionings that we carry. It is the most sterilized form of cotton in the cleanest possible packaging. And we do not want to even touch it. And that is the story of Padman. I mean, a man, Murugantham, I think, he actually worked on this and despite the taboo and despite being looked down upon by his own wife, the village, the mother, and why not? I think these movies, of course, there is the other side like Needham and, shared, but there are the positive sides where we are getting educated. That's possibly the only medium we are getting educated in an entertained way. So I would really request, the film fraternity or whatever, that they come up with such movies which are more educated than putting it down.
True.
Payal, how do you think NLP can help cancer patients in some way?
NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro is how you think, how your thinking patterns convert into the language that you use and ultimately the results. So whether it is in a professional arena or a personal arena, the point is neuro-linguistic programming is very subjective. It's like a subjective study on how you look at the world and how do you make sense of it. So one of the presuppositions in NLP is I have all the resources within me right now to be able to manage whatever is there in my life. So there is a purpose, there is a time. It is not as per what we wish and want, but I'm sure I know of like how my mother's changed in different ways. She always blesses the food that she eats because it's the most nourishing thing that you take down. We've become even more appreciative. We thank, we offer gratitude in the morning, in the evening, every time that because it's a beautiful thing. It's changed us. It's made us grow in ways that we did not foresee. So I would say we have all the resources within us. And the second is from the NLP context is to have the power of self-empowering language. What kind of language are we speaking with the cancer patient? Or how are we talking with ourselves to make that happen? And the third is that how can you actually get people to create and understand and respect that everybody has a map of their own world. My world is very different from another person's or caregiver's world or another cancer survivor or cancer patient's world. It's not the same. And I have to start looking at it with a very appreciative eye there. So thank you so much for asking that question.
How wonderful. How wonderful.
Very rightly said, like it's all within us, and if we believe in ourselves, any battle can be fought bravely. So before we conclude, what message would you like to give to the patients trying to cope with cancer and shame? Starting with you, Neelam.
So, dear cancer warriors, congratulations. Because this is your chance to rewire, reinvent, and relive your life in the glossiest way possible. You are so fortunate because you're going to be the trendsetter in how to live life in the best way possible. You are also going to bust the myth of all the stereotypes around shame and cancer. Become a lighthouse of hope, positivity, and grit so that you can inspire a lot of people. There is no shame for warriors, only pride. So may you soar, shine, and smile. Remain invincible. There is no shame in that. Congratulations.
That was so inspiring. Coming to you, Payal, what message would you like to give to our viewers?
Yes, I would like to say, I think Neelam has summed it up so beautifully, first of all. It is just, it's so poetic and so inspiring there. I would like to say, one, for the cancer patients, acknowledge your feelings and do not rush it. Do not check into other people's worlds and see. First, get in touch with your own feelings and how do you want to deal with it. Like we know of some stories, and of course Neelam had mentioned also, I remember, where she had shaved off her hair when during the cancer times. And I remember my mother's story where each strand of hair, she let it go in front of us. And that was the same time my sister was getting married. So I remember, it was, and I can tell you with a hand on my heart, my mother looked the most graceful without going to a salon, without going to all the parlors of the world. And she looked the most graceful during my sister's wedding. I carried these scarves for her. And I remember she said, I will remove the scarf. I will be who I am. And people would just, that is the height of vulnerability, if I may say so. So let the person do what they feel comfortable. If they want to shave off their hair, if they want to wear something beautiful, let them be. Second is, I think family support is the utmost important. So my mother, where she is today, is because of her resilience, and also my dad, my sister, my entire family, and of course, the doctors who came like angels at that point in time, and the treatment. So I think that support is so important. So having immense gratitude, celebrating each win, each treatment, each day, I think that's what cancer really teaches you. And the third is, of course, that was on a sour note. They are these companies, I don't know whether you know of it, but they are into making wigs. And I remember reading in the paper that they give 50% off for cancer patients. And it was quite a sour taste that we had. So if you can't help, don't at least make a business out of it. Because, people are going through a lot at different levels. But, it is ultimately a victory of resilience and inner spirit. So thank you so much. Thank you, Megha.
That's so beautifully said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Neelam and Payal, for this insightful discussion. I'm sure our listeners are going back with changed perspectives. I hope that we unlearn the harmful beliefs and evolve as a society where no human being has to experience shame for being diagnosed with a disease. On this note, it's me, Megha Ahuja, signing off for the day. Take care and stay Sashakt.